Hello, and in this video I'm building a train station, but this train station is slightly different. It's based off a train station in Germany, in Hamburg, and it has a very complicated junction outside the front, mainly because there is this sort of bus lane that runs through the middle of these two lanes, and I'm guessing it has quite a lot of buses that go there because of the station and whatnot. And the junction looked fairly complicated, so I just wanted to give it a go, just to see. I haven't put out any videos lately, mainly because of some of the mods that haven't been updated. The main one was dynamic resolution. That's why I think the next 3 of my videos, the quality of the actual just time-lapse will be a bit less. But I waited until the update was out for the cinematics, so it looked a bit better. I was having a bit of trouble on some of the cinematics. They were a tiny bit laggy. Sorry about that. I'm not 100% sure. I think I had some of my settings messed up, and I was using the new post-processing FX mod. Things were just getting a bit weird. But as you can see here, I'm placing down the the very complicated junction. I did think about maybe using highways for this, but I sort of wanted a sunken feel, and the mod that removed highways signs and stuff were broken. I believe it was called American Road Signs, and that deleted all the electrical boxes and parking lot signs that you don't really need. They just add a bit of clutter to unnecessary things. But I'm using a new different mod that Simon made, and it's good. I think it's pretty much just called remove roadside stuff. It worked, but it only worked after a restart. So when I restarted the game, I removed them all. But by then I'd already built a lot of the builds, so it was a bit pointless. I've also found out something new, which I never knew. So the traffic lights have always looked really bad with these Skylines. They've just looked a bit meh, just grey, and don't really resemble any traffic lights anywhere else in the world. But I found that if you play on European theme, which is like the base map theme, you get these really nice looking traffic lights. They look very, I'd say they look more UK than European, but they look very nice. They have a black face to them, and they're just nicer texture and just nicer modelling. They just look a lot nicer. I didn't know about this. From now on, all my traffic lights are going to look like this until someone makes an even better traffic light model. But for now, these are perfect. These work really nice and just fit in very well with a lot of my builds. So as you could see with the junction, it is a bit of a complicated one, mainly because of the bus line that runs through the middle. And what I did was I only allowed traffic to turn left from the bottom, because that's where it seemed like I was getting the most. So I allowed the traffic to turn up and to the left, and also there was a separate bus lane for buses to enter their respective bus pickup area. And I do a lot of the lines and a lot of the detailing work, and I colour the bike paths in red, which has sort of become a staple, I suppose. It just makes them stand out. They could really be any colour. I mean, I guess it is sort of a Dutch thing, although the red is a bit light for my liking. I would prefer it to be a tiny bit darker, maybe a tiny bit more wear on it, because it does tend to look a bit new at the moment. And I don't mind things looking new, but I wish there was more worn stuff on the workshop, like dirty old stuff, like maybe some cars and stuff that just they look old, because a lot of they just look new. They look factory new, and whose car looks factory new? Maybe one day we'll have old battered cars and dirty trucks and stuff like that. But for now, things just tend to look a bit clean, which like I said, isn't bad. It's definitely a style, but I'm sort of getting a bit tired of the cleanness of it all. I try and dirty it up as much as I can, but it's very hard because you can't put decals on decals. It just makes things look weird. So what I've taken to lately is using curb props and putting them in between decals to sort of make a transfer between the decals. Because when you butt up decals against each other, where they meet tends to look weird. So I've just taken on using these curb assets by Ronix to make a really nice sort of transfer sort of thing. It's sort of like bricks. If we had like a brick prop, that would be quite nice. So we could just place bricks in a line, and that would actually be quite nice. I may ask someone if they could do that, because I think that could work quite well. So with the actual road lines, I did something different. I used like the technique that you see on a lot of European roads, where in the actual junction where cars cross, they don't always like dash out all the way. They tend to have crosses, so that the traffic going one direction sees the line still. The traffic also going the other direction sees their lines, and it's just less complicated within the junction itself. Because as you can see here with the lane connectors, it's not really that complicated of a junction, because you can only turn basically left or straight. Only the traffic coming from the bottom can turn up and to the left, which I'm doing at the moment here. I'm doing the bus lane first, which turns into the bus lane, and then I'm going to draw the other sort of lane that goes up and to the left. And buses that come out of that area can only turn right, because I'm imagining if this was a proper city, they could easily just turn right, wrap around, and if they needed to go somewhere else, they would take a different route. It just makes the junction less complicated, and you don't need as many lanes. Makes it quicker. So here's the crosses of the junction. Just a small taster just to see. It's a lot easier to do, I suppose. Like, it's more difficult when you're doing it for the first time, but it's easier to see what's going on in that junction. Otherwise it does get a tiny bit confusing. So here I am adding curves to the side of the curb, just to add a little more texture, because these curbs just look quite nice. They fit in quite well. They add a sort of end bit for the decals, like I said before. Now I'm getting on with the bus stop sort of area. Adding these are actually tram shelters, but they look very nice and they fit in very well with buses. I was having problems with spawning buses, so there was no buses in the cinematics, but if you didn't notice, that's good. But I think people would have noticed that there were no buses. It does suck that there were no buses, but I couldn't get them to spawn. The mod that gets to spawn buses doesn't really work. I mean, even before the update, it was broken for me and wasn't working, and it's a bit of a pain. But now it's working even less, which is a bit of a shame. I may have to try and go into the settings and just remove it entirely, and then just have random buses. Because at the moment, with the mod, you can obviously pick buses, and you pick the nice ones, but I may just have to wait for random buses to spawn and then just remove them and just have my own buses. But we'll see. I'll try and get a workaround if I ever make a complicated sort of transport system. So I'm just trying to like pretty up the part where the pedestrians are, adding some different decals for the walkways and a couple bollards, with the curb trick again, just to differentiate the decal from the rest of the decals that I will eventually place. And I wanted to do a little sort of planter area for some trees here. So I use some cube props, and then in the end I stick trees and grass in there. But I believe the file got corrupted after that point, so I'm afraid I don't have that part. But you saw it in the cinematics; it wasn't very complicated. And I'm just finishing up the final bits of detailing with some trees and bushes, and obviously I'm going to add a load of bikes. It just fills out a lot of area. I first added this giant bike sort of rack, and then I thought, this is a bit big. Where's the smaller one? And I scrolled a bit long, and there were these smaller, nicer ones that just look better. So I simply place these in a bit of a random order, copy them with Move It, and then place them all over the place. I place them on this plaza on that side, and then I place them on the plaza that's closer to the train station as well, next to the taxi rank. Because in real life in Hamburg, there is a ton of bikes just everywhere next to the station. And they've got a load of bike racks and stuff, and it just rounds out the area, I suppose. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.